Na 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 na. Welcome back to episode 2, where I bring you guys along on building my creative business out here in New Orleans, sharing the ups and downs of what it's like to create full time for a living, and hopefully giving you guys inspiration so that you can go out and be more creative in the work that you do and chase creativity at a higher level. So, for those of you who don't know, I've been going through a creative recovery period for the last 6 months. After a year of marketing and doing a lot of creative, professional video production content geared towards business owners specifically, I realized that I was missing a lot of the creative aspects of producing and making things that really inspired me to go off on my own and start my own creative business in the first place. And so for the last 6 months, I've been on a very intentional journey trying to reintroduce creativity into the work that I do, taking those risks, making things that didn't necessarily have a financial end goal at the end, and figuring out what it is that I wanted to make in the first place. I am currently working my way through The Artist's Way. I think I'm on week 4 right now. I've been listening to The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I have, The Creative Way of the Creative Act, Way of Being by Rick Rubin. And there's something in all of these books and resources that has made creating actually a little bit more difficult for me. And I didn't know why until recently. Something all of these books talk about is creativity coming from a higher level. And there's a lot of elements to this that I do believe in. This is a theory that has gone back for a long time. I live in New Orleans. We have the Muses Streets, which is an old Greek philosophy about the 9 muses that would infect artists and drive them crazy, which would help them produce their best art. Rick Rubin talks a lot about the creative channel that exists all around us and how ideas come out of that channel and into the people who are paying attention and looking for it. The same thing with The Artist Way. She talks about the great creator being whatever that is for you. Could be God, could be something else. And us learning to tap into that source, that creator, and getting our ideas from them. And I love this. I love this idea of creation coming from an alternate plane. What all of these theories and messages do is they really help us tap into our intuition a little bit more, and they help us believe in ideas that aren't necessarily logical. And when we get ourselves into a place and a mental state where we're not necessarily chasing logic, but we're now chasing things that bring us fun and delight, and I don't know how you would put that, but things that just kind of like live beyond us, and these ideas of things bigger than us and invisible and worlds that we can't see, you are inherently allowing yourself into a place that is going to be more creative. Now, where this was jamming me up is I sat down the other day, just fully devoted to figuring out what was the next creative video I wanted to make. What was the next story I wanted to tell? What were the images that inspired me? What was it that I was in my heart was the deepest, most profound message that I wasn't expressing right now? I was being more stressed out by the fact that I had been reading all of this material and listening to all these coaches on creativity talking about your ideas for creativity being this big thing, these big moments or whispers from a creative channel or from a god or whatever it is that you believe in, coming in and working through you to produce something that was just your creative work. And so no matter how hard I tried to tap into this source, I was not doing any creating because nothing was hitting me as deep as I would have liked it to. And I finally gave myself permission to just work on something that delighted me. And this didn't have to be something deep. And that was such a click for me. It was giving myself that permission to pick an idea that I thought was going to just be cool to look at, just something where I didn't want to judge it too deeply and I didn't want to personify the message too heavily. I didn't want to analyze it and criticize it, but just something that really was like, hey, I sort of like this. Let me do that. And that seemed to be a really big thing for me. I'm hoping that, if you're somewhere in your journey and you're creative and you're stuck, I know a lot of creatives who are going through this and they don't know what to work on. They don't know what their next big piece is. Maybe they have a really established portfolio and everything they do needs to contribute to that portfolio. Maybe they're newer to creating and they don't have a portfolio, but they're afraid that what they make next is going to be how everybody judges them. And all of these ideas contribute to this paralysis that we feel when we're creating. But giving myself permission, and hopefully you take away from this, that giving yourself permission to just work on these things that are really just simple, I would say. I'm sort of going through another creative exercise where I like to work in projects. I'm not trying to just practice exercises or go through some sort of tutorial, but I want to have some sort of thing that I'm building. For me, I landed on this project called Escape, and it's sort of a meta experience, but it's about when we have these things that are really deep that we need to work on, and all of these forms of resistance that come up that block us from doing these things that are important for our growth. And so for some of us, that is chasing a creative, expressive project where we kind of like have to put in some work to express ourselves. For others, it's, making amends with someone. But we all go through these experiences where when we're putting something off that is really deep and important to us, we start to create all of these distractions and all of these excuses not to do that thing. And the way that I saw myself portraying that is I recently got a motorcycle and I wanted to get some cool shots of me on the motorcycle. And that was the seed for all of this. I thought about the motorcycle. I thought I would love to get someone capturing footage of me on the motorcycle and putting the camera on their car. And I was like, what can I build an idea that incorporates the motorcycle? And something about being on that motorcycle alone. There's always that isolated cowboy type character that comes up, the one that is running away from someone, the one that like needs to be on their own. And that led me down the rabbit hole of, okay, this person is running from something, this person's stressed out, this person's isolated. I knew a spot by the water that I wanted to go capture this at. And the pieces just made a little bit more sense when I gave myself permission to capture those shots. Before, when I was thinking about the motorcycle, it was one of my first ideas. But I kept brushing it off because I kept saying to myself, this is going to, be corny. This isn't going to be something anybody wants to watch. It's not really that deep. It's just me wanting to capture some cool footage on a motorcycle, or how do I make it super deep? And it was all of these different forms of resistance that kept coming up while I was doing it. So the permission that I gave myself finally when I said, let's just start with something I like, because at least by working on something that I knew caught my interest visually, I knew that that would encourage me to at least start making something. And making something and getting in the habit and process of making something is far more important than working on your next opus magnum. I always forget if it's magnum opus, opus magnum, and not actually doing anything. I am testing this theory now that if we can get the momentum rolling and just start working on things that are important to us or just delight us, it'll lead to more work that is important to us once we actually have those creative muscles exercised.